Hey, everybody. Welcome to Anita's Wednesday Wisdom Highlights. How are you doing today? So glad you're watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching later. I really appreciate you being here. Wanted to talk just a little bit today about the law of consistency. This is what we've been talking about in the bi-monthly program this month is the law of consistency. And one of the things that we were discussing last night was the fact that a lot of times when it comes to being consistent, when it comes to making changes in our lives, whether it's changes in our health or changes in our business or in our ability to perform, do our job, in our personal growth, in relationships, in our health, whatever it is that we're trying to improve, that we have to be consistent about it. We have to do it daily and constantly be improving, or at least, 3 to 4 times a week. We have to be doing it consistent enough for it to make a distant difference. And we were talking about how it seems like when you first start being consistent in an area, it's really frustrating because you feel like you're taking really small baby steps that it doesn't feel like it's doing much difference. It doesn't feel like it's making much progress. But that's the beauty of consistency. Doing small things over and over time will lead to big successes. Just consistently getting better and better every time you do it. So whether it's, trying to be more healthy, watching what you're eating, or exercising, or if you're trying to improve your company or your business, or if you're trying to improve your relationships, just pick one thing and start working on doing it better every day. I look back in my life and some of the successes that I've had, and every single one of them had an element of consistency. My Princess House business, my direct sales business, one of the biggest reasons why I was very successful was because I was consistent. I did all the steps every day for all of the parties that I did. And then when I would look back at parenting and raising my children, I'm not going to say I was a huge success, but I was somewhat successful at raising my children. I like to think that I did as best job as I could possibly do. But one of the things I found to help my children with their behavior was to be consistent. One of the things that I think I've shared this before, but one of the things that I did was when my children were young, they were not allowed to walk around the house eating food. They weren't allowed to do anything eating food. They had to sit down to eat their food. And I was so consistent with this rule that even if we were at somebody's house, or if we were at a park, or if we were, someplace other than home, if somebody offered them food, they would sit right down. They would sit down wherever they were because they knew they could not walk around with food. And that seems like a small thing, but it taught them from a very young age that, of course it's safer, but mostly my motivation was because I didn't want to clean off food off the walls and floors and everything around my house, right? But it's also good for them because they don't, they learn a skill and a good behavior and a good habit. One of my favorite quotes is from E.M. Gray. It says, the difference, the difference between, let me find it so that I say it the right way. The successful person has the habit of doing things that unsuccessful people don't like to do. Now, this is the rub. The successful person doesn't like to do them either. There's the trick, right? It's okay if you don't necessarily like to do the chore that you have to be consistent about, but just be consistent. Uh, but his dislike is subordinate to the strength of his purpose. When you understand why you're being consistent in a specific area and you know what it is that you want, it gives you the motivation to be more consistent. So think about it. What is it that you would like to be more consistent about? Some of us, we're more consistent about some things than we are about others. But what area of your life would you like to be more consistent about? And just take one small step to do something to get consistent about it, and do it every day for the next week and just see how you do. And then share it with me. Good news, I have good news from the video from last week. I had given everybody a challenge to make a comment, drop a comment, and I would do a drawing for a free disc assessment. Well, I like to announce the winner. The winner is Megan Smith. Yay! fun. You get a free disc assessment. So thank you so much for joining, and please drop a comment and help me drive traffic. I really love you guys. I appreciate you. Talk to you later.